Look at my smiley's eyeballs. See how nicely they are moving around, bringing life to the entire drawing that I've drawn. Let's see how we can do such animations to make our drawings come alive. The key idea really is that we are drawing two drawings here alternately. In one drawing, we have eyeballs on the left side, and one drawing, we have eyeballs on the right side. And this alternate drawing keeps happening forever, which creates that animation that we have been talking about. The two drawings that we are talking of here is basically the same smiley with eyes on the left and then eyes on the right. Now, the way we are going to do this is using a parameter called offset. When offset is 0, the eyes will be on left. When offset is 15, eyes will be on the right. So what we are really going to do is to keep doing this alternately, offset 0, offset 15, offset 0, offset 15, and that will create the effect that we are looking at. However, there's a bunch of things we need to do for making all this happen. First thing, we must speed up the drawing process, and we do that using the tracer methods. Next, we must use the ts.ontimer method, which is basically the one that makes it happen forever, over and over again. And we must define at least two functions. Let's see how we do this. The two functions that we do are, in short, a function to actually make the drawing. For example, in this case, I'm going to define a function, using the def keyword. It's called, let's say, draw smiley with a parameter called offset. Now remember, offset is the parameter which gives me those two drawings. So I'm passing offset as a parameter here, and I basically keep drawing this again and again. So this is the function that actually draws. Additionally, I have this function called animate drawing, which doesn't have any inputs. We cannot take any inputs for this. But the idea here is that I'm going to update offset, and I'm going to call this function to draw. And I am going to put this in an on timer loop. So ts.ontimer, which basically says that, okay, after this much delay, call this function once again. Now this is actually very interesting. What we are doing by ts.ontimer is that we are calling this function again and again after delay milliseconds. So we are going to use delay of 500 say 500, which is 500 milliseconds or half a second. So what's going to happen is that every half a second we are going to animate drawing. And remember, animate drawing function basically calls this draw smiley. So this function, when we call, so effectively we are going to draw this again and again with a different offset. Now all of this is going to become clear once we start writing the code. So here I have the basic turtle function which draws me the smiley. When I do this, remember, we notice how the smiley gets drawn. But clearly this is way too slow, so I'm going to speed this up by using the tracer functions, and I do that by saying ts equals to t dot get screen, t dot get screen. Now I'm just going to say ts dot tracer 0, tracer 0, and finally at the end of the drawing I'm going to say ts dot update. Now what this does is a little bit like running without screen refresh in Scratch. It's going to just speed up the drawing and have it ready immediately as it gets done. Now this is important because otherwise the drawing will take way too long for the animation to happen. Next, remember, I want to define a function to draw this smiley. So I'm going to just come in here and I'm going to say, def, let's say, draw, say, smiley. Now I'm going to send in a parameter called offset and put a colon here to be consistent with the syntax. Now I'm going to put all of this inside this function, and the way I do that is by selecting it all and just giving one indentation, and wherever the indentation ends, the function ends. So now I've got a function here called draw smiley which takes offset as an input. Now I must use the input that I've given, offset. Now remember, this offset controls where the eyeballs appear, and I'm going to make that happen in this code which creates for me the two eyeballs. I'm just going to say -30 plus offset and also 15 plus offset. Now what's happening here is that this is a function which I can call. So this entire thing is inside a function which takes an input parameter offset. So for example, if I say draw, say, smiley, say 15, then I expect this this function to be called with the parameter of 15, and I expect the eyes to appear on the right side, exactly what I thought will happen. I can also send it with 0, in which case I'll get exactly what I had earlier, which is the eyes on the left side. Now I'm going to create a variable here called offset. I'm going to just call it, say, offset equals to 0. And I'm also going to define a new function called, let's say, animate drawing. Now this function will not take any inputs. It cannot take any inputs. What I'll be doing here is that I'll be calling the draw smiley from inside this, but I want to change the offset value before I call the draw smiley. So I'm going to use the global keyword here. So I just say global offset because I want to change this variable inside this function. So what I'll be doing is that I'll say if offset is equal to, say, 0, then offset is equal to, say, 15. So basically if it's 0, I make it 15, and else I'll make it, let's say, okay, I must have a colon over here. I make offset is equal to 0. Now with this done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call my draw smiley function with the offset. Now this is just part of the story. Remember, I must also set up the infinite loop to make this happen forever, and that gets done using the ts.ontimer method. Now remember, this is basically a method which tells us that, okay, once once a certain time gets over, this function gets called again. So I'm going to call this function animate drawing, and with a delay of, let's say, 500. Now this is very interesting. Basically, to make all this happen, I just need to call animate drawing once, and once I do that, then this entire cycle will get triggered, and the again, every 500 millisecond I'll have animated drawing getting created, which will update the offset, and then a new drawing will get drawn because I'm passing offset as a parameter to draw smiley. Very logical if you think about it, but could be a little bit confusing in the beginning, but with practice it gets better. Notice with this, my eyeballs are moving exactly as I thought they would. uh, Clearly this brings life to your drawing, and it could be used in very creative manners. I hope this gave you an idea. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye bye.